Call this meeting to order. Waldeboro Planning Board, October 10, 24. We have a quorum. We have all of our members here today except Johnny, 4 out of 5. Adjustments to the agenda. Does anyone have any adjustments? Hearing none. Move on to citizen comments. I assume we don't have any citizen comments today because you're here for the application. So let's move on to item 4, pre-application. Light industrial at 722 Atlantic Highway. If you would you take the podium and tell us about your projects?
Well, I'm Ron Davis, my wife Peggy here. We recently acquired the business North Country Wind Bells, which for many years has operated down in Round Pond. And hasn't really been operating for, I don't think, it's about a year ago, which is a great disappointment for the area, but there was reasons, certain equipment that was quite old that didn't make sense. It didn't make sense for them to replace it, and some health issues. Anyway, we have acquired that company, and goal, and that's one of the reasons we're here tonight, is eventually bring that business to Waldeboro. Like I said, it's been a company that they were the second generation. Peggy will talk a little bit more about that. But I'll address the manufacturing part because I know that's what you're interested in, as to what part of the manufacturing makes it light industry or light manufacturing. But if you would, Peggy, briefly, give you a little background. I don't know whether you all know about North Country Wind Bells, but should like to give you a brief.
Should I go?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Well, this is a North Country Wind Bell. This one was actually purchased from Pendle Delano because they don't have any more wind bells right now down in the manufacturing place. Yeah. This is a company that started about 50 years ago. It's a great Maine story. It was a couple who he had been a lobsterman. They had farmed, they had done some cross-country trucking, and they were in their 50s, and they were looking for another business to keep them going in that kind of cobbling together lifestyle that people in Maine have sometimes, where you put things together to keep yourself in the place you want to be. And when he was a lobsterman, he had been out in the water and was used to actually pay attention to the different sounds of the various buoy bells in the harbors, particularly if it was very foggy. And so they get to be in their fifth, and he had played around a little with scrap metal, making wind bells. And when they were looking for a new thing to do, they remembered these bells. And so there are a whole series of bells that they made over a period of years that have 3 different tones in their different sides. They're cut from different gauges of steel that make the different tones when the clappers hit them. And they are connected to the various harbors on the coast of Maine. They are really simple. It's a very simple design. They're simple to manufacture. They are somehow so expressive of the coast of Maine. We have a bigger one that we had lost the wind catcher to. And early in the season, we went down Route 32 where they were being made, because we needed a new wind catcher. And that was the point at which we realized that they had ceased manufacturing, and that not the building, but the business was for sale. Sort of a story how we ended up acquiring it. Our son and daughter-in-law, are the people who are going to run it. They are actually coming in. We're not going to be the prime runners of this. We're old. the son and daughter-in-law are not.
Some
so old.
excuse, come on.
Way
Well,
too old.
yeah, we're a little busy with it, but they are actually gonna be the runners of it. But there was just a strong sense that this business shouldn't die, and it belongs on the coast of Maine. It really belongs here. Its DNA is here. The whole story, which is a great story, takes place like between Bremen and Round Pond, so. But we do intend to move it to Waldeboro. That is our hope.
Excellent.
Okay. Got a nice sound.
Yeah,
Like Peggy said, because of the different thicknesses of material, they were able to create the sound that duplicated the different harbors and the different bells going into the harbor. And it took a long time to do that, and other than the thicknesses of the material, they are all different lengths from 7-inch to about 16 inches, which also changes the sound. And also the clapper, or they call them hammers inside, different thicknesses, different kind of material. And that also changes the sound. So it's quite unique, and all the legwork has been done. I mean, this has been doing this for years, so we got the easy part. But getting to the manufacturing, that is very, very simple. There's basically 3 major pieces of equipment. And 2 of them are the ones that are really outdated. They're 20-some years old. They're computer operated, and they were having a lot of difficulty, couldn't buy parts for the machines or whatever. And with the other problems on that, it just didn't make sense for them to spend, thousands and thousands of dollars for new equipment when they really were, it was really time for them to move on. But basically, there's 3 types of material, of equipment. 2 of them are laser cutting machines. Both different because one of them cuts metal and the other one cuts either wood or plastic, acrylic. Obviously the outer part of it is done on the metal cutting laser. And inside the clapper is acrylic, and that takes a different kind of laser. One doesn't really do the other. Very simple process. The third one is a powder coating machine, and that makes it very durable. Over some are 20 years old and still hanging there and still not rusting. It's a fairly complex piece of equipment. It's very close to 100 feet long. And I should explain that process to you because that's important as far as environmental goes. But to start with, the laser cutting machine takes a 4x8 sheet of material. The materials range from, well, they go by gauge, 12 to 14 gauge, which basically is probably 90-some thousandths of an inch up to about 120, and that's 125 is 1/8 of an inch. So it's not really thick material, as you can see there. And it's complicated, but the only complicated part is because they're all different sizes and each side is a different thickness. So keeping this segregated in the right thickness to the right bell is kind of challenging. But anyway, the laser cutting machine is a very clean type of cutting. The laser beam itself is not a whole lot thicker than one you hear on your head, and very fine beam. Very little smoke or residue. It's quite different than plasma cutting, which really kind of makes a mess and isn't very accurate. And it's pretty self-contained with no toxicity of any kind of anything that causes any danger or bad for your health or whatever. Because it's a very quick, fast operation. The other laser for cutting the acrylic is the same size. It takes a 4x8 piece of sheet of acrylic, two different sizes, they're 3/8 thick and some 1/2 inch thick. And that's a very simple operation, for a laser. It's very self-contained. There's, it doesn't produce anything that's toxic. It's not a pleasant smell, so you really need to contain this, and filter out the smell basically, but as far as the fumes or any kind of smoke involved, it's not toxic. And there is a very good filtration system. As far as the powder coating goes, it's a continuous track that starts off with a completely assembled bell. And the first operation is a cleaning of the material. The cleaning fluid is not something that you even change, not something you dispose of. It continually is monitored, and you simply keep adding to it. It's not something that could ever get outside of this piece of equipment or outside of the building or anything. It's just all self-contained. Once a month, you send the fluid to the company that makes it, they analyze it, and you add a little something else, but it can go years without ever having to change that fluid, which is really good. So after it's clean, it has to be dried and brought up to a certain temperature. A warm temperature is much better for the powder coating. So it goes through this area that does the drying. That's propane, heated by propane. Then the track goes to the powder coating area. And that's the only part of it that's done manually. And it's powder, basically powder that is plastic. That exterior powder coating, it ends up fairly hard because it's cured, but it's basically a plastic material. And what's really good about it, and why it's used so much in industry, is that the track that the bell runs on is negatively charged. The powder and the spray gun, which is just like paint spraying or whatever, except it's a dry powder. There's no liquid to that gets sprayed around. That's positively charged. So you basically don't have to, like painting a car, you've got to be very, very careful what you do. You just have to be in the vicinity about that far away. And because a negative charge draws the positive charge, and it gets in everywhere that you can't even see. So it's a very, very good way of coating, and it's really durable. And from there, it has to be cured for about 10 minutes at 375 degrees. That's in a curing oven that's about 10 feet wide and about 25 feet long. And it's all timed, so it goes through there, and once it's up to that temperature, it's got to be for 10 minutes, and then it comes back out. It cools by the time it gets around the track, and they take that one off and put another one on. So it basically a very, very simple process. As far as does it conform to light manufacturing, we are really down the bottom as far as light manufacturing. We own 3 machines. There is welding procedure, because at the very top there's about an inch of weld and it's welded around the hook. And that is a manual operation, obviously. So nothing really technical about it. And it's a fairly safe operation, but just 3 pieces of equipment. So
Does it get bent, or 4 sides soldered, 3 sides soldered together? How do you get the shape?
They're
the
welded at the top.
it's welded at the top.
It's only welded at the top.
Oh, yeah.
It's open at the bottom.
Okay,
Yeah.
And it's welded right up there.
so that's the final welding. Okay,
That's what allows it to ring like.
Yeah.
Because if it was welded in the bottom too, it would just be a kind of a thump. So, that's one of the things that over the years they've experimented with, and the welding is, kind of critical because if it's too much of a weld, then it changes the sound typically. But, like I said, there's really nothing environmentally that's a problem with doing this. They've done it down there for years and years and, never had a problem
Are you just gonna be operating during the day?
during the day. Yeah, we pretty much plan on doing the day. If the volume got to a point where we have to, work extra hours, we probably would do that. But it's gonna take us some time to get up to the production that they were doing. The last few years they were in operation, they did close to 30,000 bells a year. So that's 90,000 sides.
Mhm.
So we only have most of the materials delivered buying up, so that comes just once every like 3 weeks. So you don't have trucks coming and going all the time. UPS probably comes daily. So it's pretty simple. We really hope to bring it here in Waldeboro because we try and do as much as we can for Waldeboro, and maybe that we started the Madomic Exchange, which is we house the food pantry and the free clothing closet and run the thrift shop up the street to help provide funds to support those functions. So we're kind of, even though we've only been here, I don't know, 10, 11 years, whatever it is. Yeah, we really saw a need here, and what we have committed to do is hopefully the business is profitable enough that after expenses and that the any profits would go to the Madomic Exchange to help support the programs there.
Ron, sorry, very quickly, because you were talking about traffic. How many employees do you think will be added?
To start with, probably 5 or 6.
Okay.
When we get up to where they were, it may get to 9 or 10, depending on the year too. You get near the holidays, Christmas and that. You need
They had a pattern of increasing the staff at holiday time.
So, yeah, it was just a question for the traffic flow.
And none of what we're gonna do there requires really skills. And this, in our the way we feel about it is that we'll be hiring people that don't particularly have a lot of skill,
I need a job.
and whatever we do there, it's easily taught. Even the welding, went up to Orono, which has an advanced manufacturing part of their facility. And asked them there, we made sure that they were using the right kind of welding and everything to do their product. So I asked the engineer, how long would it take to teach someone who really hasn't any welding experience to learn how to do that? And he said, give me about an hour and they can do whatever you need them to do for that product. They won't know all the things that a welder needs to know, like different materials and what happens when you heat it and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But that isn't required.
Mhm.
So it gives to us an opportunity for people who don't have the skills to have a decent job.
Mm.
So,
Is there a site plan
No, so,
at this time or?
so
And let me ask you this, 'cause the reason I ask is there's a little existing building. Are you doing retail there as well?
we
Or how do you use?
would be a very small part, but we thought that maybe the existing building there, that we may have like a showroom. And we want it to be known that company's made in Waldeboro.
Mhm.
And for people, it would be the people that are traveling back and forth, but that would be probably such a small part of our business. We would have a display at the thrift shop up there and advertise it for there, but yeah, we'll have an office in that building that's there. And have some product that people can look at, but that is not part of what we figure is gonna be any part of our business that would amount to anything.
So I think there's an apartment nearby above Gordon Libby's back.
Yeah, this is a considerable distance away from.
So I guess I'm.
Thing
well,
going on
site
at
plan-
Gordon's is
Yeah.
much more.
But a site plan would help because there's still fumes, right? You still have a stack somewhere. I mean, the powder coating doesn't
I think
create
that the purpose
any.
of this meeting is determine if it's light industrial, which
Yeah.
I'm satisfied that it is.
But don't we also want him to come to the next meeting, or does he have to? Oh, he doesn't.
No, so-
have- he
so
does not
that's-
have to come. to
So
the
that's the whole point of this meeting. So the board will determine through the, what is it, 7 standards for a light industrial use, that if you believe this use satisfies that, then Ron will still have to satisfy all the other standards, like the environmental, the site plan, all that. That also has to be satisfied. But if you determine it's a light industrial use, then the code enforcement officer would review that instead.
We have spent some time with Max and the code enforcement office to, make sure that that was a usable space. Talked about some preliminary requirements and, we want to get off on the right foot that,
And
whatever we were gonna be doing would be suitable to that. And so, I even saw Mark the other day, prior to the meeting here to, just to make sure that we still were on the same page about things. And Mark's very good. He spent time and went over requirements and that, and I think we have a good plan to work something out with him on a regular basis. So,
and I still treated this like any other advertisement for a planning board meeting, where all the neighbors did in fact get a letter in the mail. We put it in the Lincoln County News. And I did receive 2 calls from neighbors. One who, Eric's the one who has it, but there is a home that's maybe very close by. That individual said, as long as I have a tree buffer so that I don't have to see this at night, I'm fine with that. And the other one was just someone who, as always, is just curious what's going on, but heard everything, didn't have any problems.
So, but I'm curious, so I'm sorry, I have to ask questions. I mean, we still have this question, but do you see this building as being visible from the road, from Route 1? Like everybody's gonna know, oh, that's the place that makes, or are you gonna build a super huge, like Dana Dow's chair, right? And alongside, is it gonna be, or is it gonna be kind of tucked back?
well,
I'm just curious.
there's some issue with wetlands there. There's an acre and a quarter of land, which is plenty.
Yeah.
But we can only go back so far.
Yeah.
And we have a application into the DEP, and we'd really hoped before this meeting, we had some response from them. So that they could come out and actually mark where the wetlands are.
Right,
So, there's no way it won't be visible. We hope that we would build a structure that won't be an eyesore, would be probably a decent metal building.
mhm.
Probably similar to the one that Dow Furniture is building down there. And, we don't want something that's unattractive.
So I'm confused by this whole thing. It says planning board should go through this whole list. And it passes everything in that list. So this is just written badly? Is
Yes,
that that's the
Yes.
problem?
that's the problem. If this
It's
says
written badly.
the
Well, it
planning
says-
board shall classify an industrial use as light industrial.
It's gonna be less
Pretty
than
clear.
30 trucks a day. It is,
Right.
decimal level is low.
It's not badly written, you just don't like what it says.
Well, no, well, no, the problem, the reason we're holding this whole meeting tonight is that it says right here, the planning board shall classify an industrial light.
Right,
If this said code enforcement officer, we probably wouldn't be having this meeting right now,
sure.
because Mark would have determined that, but that's why this step is here. If everyone's probably saying, yeah, this is a no-brainer, and that's fine, but I need the planning board to make that
I
call.
move that we classify this project as light industrial and send it to.
I have further
the code
questions.
enforcement officer.
Right?
Can you explain what type of building you're gonna build?
At this point, probably will be metal. That makes the most sense.
Okay,
They seem to go up faster than, something that's maybe wood frame, but even metal exterior. Um, it's very hard to build anything these days that goes quickly.
Yeah.
And-
As well, it's very hard to build anything for $88 a square foot,
Yeah.
which is what you, what is on our paper here for, your construction costs. I wonder if you could tell me, how you're planning to do fume extraction for your welding and laser cutters.
As far as inside the containment of it, or I'm
You're not
sure.
planning to ventilate any of these tools?
Ventilation?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, oh, definitely. Their procedure, we'll leasing their property for a year down around Pond.
Okay.
They're gonna function there for a year,
oh, okay,
and they've been doing this forever. Most of their welding area comes with a very good ventilation system. The powder coating, very well ventilated. Their ventilation system and filtering system for the powder coating, even used is $10,000. I mean, this is a serious filtration system. And
for
most of
for the powder
for
coating?
the powder coating,
What are you filtering?
filtering,
The powder out of the air?
well, any of the, it's like spray painting, okay? So
I'm familiar with the process. You don't need to explain the
Okay.
process to me. My question is about the ventilation systems.
Okay, well, all I can say is it's a used system, it's $10,000, it has very large filters in the booth itself. And then it goes to an exterior ventilation system.
So you are gonna have fans on the outside of the building. This is where I'm going. I'm
Well,
trying to
with-
get you to tell me what the fans are.
it's not gonna have fans that are like attached to the building, blowing smoke out the building or anything. This is piped, goes from the filtration system in the building, piped out to the exterior filtration system, which is totally self-contained. There's no fans that are running, spewing things outside of the building.
Why not?
And very, very few particles of anything gets even to this filtration, and whatever that filters out goes into a drum that goes months and months and months before that drum has to even be changed.
Okay, so what about the laser cutters and the welder?
The welding, as far as ventilation goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all got filtration system to it.
What is it? I'm asking you a specific question. Can you answer that?
I can't say exactly what it is. When we purchasing this, we tried to get as much information as we could. They got very nice, very good welding booth. And the filtration system is, the hood right above it. Filtration system to it.
And you're exhausting it outdoors, correct?
I think eventually it probably would be,
Okay.
after it
And,
goes through the filtration.
and then
Sorry, Brendan, Eric and Mark both wanted to say something, actually, if you don't mind.
sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of interject. Code covers all of that. So as far as the mechanical code, ventilation code, ASME, it all covers what has to be done, as well as there could be some requirements from the filtration standpoint with DEP. That all has to be taken care of at the time of the building planning and stuff like that. It all has to meet that code. So whatever is put in, I can assure you it will meet code. And the newer code is the most stringent one to date. So
Can you explain what the code is for the smell of burning acrylic?
that would potentially be a DEP question that we would have to find out from them. And that would be the air quality team up at Augusta that handles that. So they would have input and be a resource for that. But there are certain things that hit certain requirements, and we need to go through the process in order to figure out, well, what is exactly need to be done in order to meet the standards. So it's going to be the ventilation and the mechanical aspect of that, and then there's going to be the DEP portion of that for the filtration and what needs to be done in order to make sure that we don't have any issues as far as exhausting something that shouldn't.
So
Hope that answered the question.
You'll recall from the CDK cabinet makers process that
Mhm.
when it came time to look at the finishing system, that there wasn't any sort of requirements. You know, there were no VOC limits on what you can have in the exhaust coming out of a paint booth. Because of course, you're gonna have tons of VOCs coming out of an exhaust from a paint booth. That's the whole purpose of a paint booth. So it's not regulated, you know, and what we have to do here tonight is in 10.15.1.1.4, determine if there's going to be a nuisance created by smoke, vibration, odor, or appearance. It doesn't say it has to meet code, it has to not be a nuisance. So I'm familiar with these processes. I'm a fabricator, you know, welder, like I've operated a lot of these tools that you're describing tonight. The acrylic smell is awful. Like everybody who's around laser cutting acrylic is shocked by how terrible it smells. You know, and you brought it up
What are they
yourself.
cutting it with?
With a laser. Yeah, yeah. There's lots of different systems. Some places are some equipment sort of blows my mind that they do this, but they'll filter the exhaust from the laser cutter, run it through filters, and just exhaust it into the space and not blow it outdoors. But it sounds like you've got some kind of a exterior filtration system for the powder coater. And then what's happening with the laser cutters? Are these gonna be exhausted outdoors, or are you gonna exhaust them inside the building?
No, we're not exhausting anything inside the building.
Okay,
No.
so there's gonna be some kind
No,
of
there's filtration.
fan blowing it outdoors, correct?
There's filtration systems that come with the machine. And I can't give you the specifications for it now, but I assume that between that and whatever code has to be met, that we will meet it. I mean, I just can't give you specifications, other than the fact we'll do what is required.
And Eric's been wanting to say
Yeah.
something for a while.
Well, first of all, I want to say, I want to recognize all that you guys have done for this community. I mean, it's really been remarkable what you've done in support of the people in real need in this community through the food pantry, thrift store, the clothing closet. So thank you for that. I mean, and I imagine that you're probably going to try to employ people from within the community in this endeavor. So that's another added benefit to this. So I want to recognize them and our appreciation for that. I assume that this particular area is set up for like industrial, right? This area,
Yeah.
Route 1, right? So, and it is Route 1. I don't know about aesthetic concerns about anything on Route 1. I mean, it's all Route 1. It's commercial. So whether the building, in fact, 50 feet or 100 feet back, I mean, I don't think it makes a damn bit of difference. It's a commercial area. And that's what it's designed for. It's designed for light industry. So, and this certainly does seem to qualify as light industry, no matter how you slice it. Now, the questions about, I do imagine though that the code now is probably more stringent than it is for the people who are operating down in Round Pond. So when you go to work with Mark on trying to figure what the code is, actually, you may run up against additional layers of code that didn't exist when these people started this business, whatever it was, 20 years ago. And I think that's what Brendan's alluding to here is suddenly, you're going to need bigger equipment, better filtration systems. It may end up being more expensive than you imagined it was, based on what the code ends up being. But I guess that's just something you have to work out, it's probably sooner rather than later, so that you know what you're up against, because it may be it's going to be more expensive to do this than you imagined. But that's something for you to work on. I mean, I'm with John. I mean, I think this is a great idea. I mean, and I think that we should definitely let you guys move forward with this and see what you can do with it. And just wish you the best of luck that it can work out as you want it to work out. So I'm all definitely on board with this project. It's great.
Can I just say something?
Sure.
To your concern, and when you mentioned CBK and their exhaust, they're down in the village where there are houses and sidewalks right I mean, they are right in the downtown area. We have quite a distance up at the top of the hill between this site and anything else. There is a house out behind. There are, actually, I'm not sure there's anything going past the hill. There is, you know, but it's and there's the parking lot across the street for the park and ride people, but that's about there. It's a good distance to anything up there. So if there was something, and he's experimenting with cutting acrylic on a laser machine that he has in our garage area. We're not unaware of the smell.
Sure, yeah.
That's, you know, and that is being looked at as something that has to be vented out from the working area. Because we're living up close and personal with it as he
Sure.
cuts,
Yeah, yeah.
you know. But that's gonna be a concern that we're gonna have, as well as the code people having.
Sure. So I understand all your points, and you know, not having a plan, I don't know everything that's around there. Like I know what I can see from the highway, but I don't know what's behind, you know, in the woods behind.
Or
the
even
place.
how big the lot is. I mean, we,
Yeah, right. So, and the other part of it too is, right now, there's nobody who lives nearby. You know, right now, there's no other development, you know, and we have to keep an eye to the future and not just say, oh, you know, we're gonna have an impact that's outsized, that stretches beyond our property lines with fumes and noise and smells. It may not be a problem now, but it can potentially have impacts in the future, you know? And the
That's
situation.
beyond the scope here because the town the town fathers have already determined that this is light industrial, that the zoning is light industrial.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know if it'll make you feel any better, but my background is in manufacturing. I was in manufacturing business for 40 years. We're an industrial zone. We have 30 CNC machines and we cut everything. I mean, nasty stuff, smelly stuff.
Yep.
Oily stuff. I know how to handle those kind of things. That's what I did all my life. And we never had a problem. We had industrial buildings all around us. We were cutting materials that smoked a lot. We took care of that. We conformed to anything OSHA was concerned about. I know how to do that.
So, okay. That's fine.
What else?
We
I
have,
don't know what else to
Yeah,
do to
that's-
make you feel better.
our code asks us to look, our code asks us to look at these questions.
Yep,
This is
yeah,
exactly right.
that's it.
It can't be looked at.
So
I don't know what to tell you.
further
So
down the
you're,
line.
so you're an expert on the ventilation question then.
I
You can
know
answer
about
the ventilation question really easily. So why didn't you answer my question?
I don't.
I think
I don't.
it's a hypothetical thing.
Everyone
Was, I wanted this to kind of stand alone by itself.
Sure, yeah.
But that is my background.
okay. So Mark had a comment.
What we're talking about is everything hypothetical. Until we get plans in place, the equipment in place, what it is, we can't apply the code until I actually see a set of plans. Those plans are going to dictate which direction the code goes and what DEP is going to require. I think we're asking hypothetical questions at this point because we don't know what the equipment is. So, you know, I wish I could sit there and tell you exactly what code it is that's going to cover, you know, the smell of acrylic burning. I can't tell you right now because that's going to be a DEP question as well. So it's something that is a combination of, you know, the codes on the ventilation system and the codes on filtration through DEP. So we have to cross that once we know what we're dealing with. So I don't know if that helps at all.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page. I mean, you know, we've been given a list of things that we have to ask about, and there's only so much we can get, you know, we know at this time. I think we're all are approved, happy about this project coming
Sure.
through. It's just kind of a funny, quirky little thing that we haven't had many light industrial things come into town.
It's not gonna be the only business in town that deals with smelly things.
Well,
seaweed,
Totally
and
correct.
everything
Yeah.
else. This is not gonna be any worse than any of those. And a lot of those are in areas with residential area around them and everything else, so,
Yeah,
And
it's a constant source of conflict between people in town.
yes, it
You know,
is.
so we're trying to make sure that we're not creating another situation like we
And-
did with the cabinet shop down
And
the street.
this could
all.
morph in time with another product that suddenly requires other equipment, you know, it could change hands over, you know, so what are we setting up for the future? That's just making,
Yeah.
just
And-
asking questions.
and again, tonight, the board's not saying that this is a business that can just start tomorrow. Board is just saying the light industrial items we believe are met, so we will send this to Mark. If Mark's gonna go through all the standards, Article 3, 7, 8, 9, everything, even these ones again. And if Mark determines this will create an odor issue, he'll send it back to the planning board then at that point, because he'll eventually have to deny that. So
Right.
this might not be it. You might deal with it in the future for all we know. But tonight is just, is Ron gonna have to come back to the planning board if this is a light industrial use or not? Because if it is a light industrial use, Mark can deal with it.
All right, well, we've got
I
a
move it
motion.
is a light industrial use and we should turn it over to Mark.
I second the motion, John's motion from 10 minutes ago.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right,
This is the little acrylic doobie in here, huh?
So,
Yes,
yes.
what?
that's
No, just other agenda items. I think the minutes that Rebecca sent earlier.
And it takes a dye, or do you order it this color?
Is it what?
Did you dye it this nice color, or?
No, that's because the powder coating doesn't stick to the acrylic.
Oh.
It's
So-
black to start with.
Oh.
But, and I'll agree with you, it smells.
You guys had a chance.
Oh,
to
it does.
We'll take care of it.
Okay.
Because I have been, I do have a laser at home. and I've cut a number of these just I want to know myself
Oh, yeah, yeah.
what the smell was. I want to know how good it cut. And I was happy the way you did it.
Yeah,
And
manufacturers will tell you that their filtration systems will let you operate the thing indoors with no
Yeah.
ventilation, and it's not really safe
no,
that way.
I don't get for my laser there because it's enclosed.
Yep.
I don't smell it at all. I let it vent out after I make the cut.
Yep.
You know, for a few minutes and doesn't smell my shop up or whatever. So
Great,
we'll do it right.
Awesome.
I'm sure you will.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just very quickly, the minutes from September, and I think.
Yeah. Any comments on the minutes? I didn't have any notes on them.
Thank you.
Yep, good night.
I'll move to accept the minutes as written.
I second it.
All in favor? All right, well, what we got?
I don't have anything lined up for October, so November, so knock on wood, we won't have anything then. Based on this language that's in the ordinance, saying a lot of things that could probably be code enforcement officer handled, having to come to the planning board, I don't know. I want to go back to some of the ordinance items that I didn't have a chance to address from the last update. And I think this is one of those items where I'd like to try and get some of these smaller technical items away from the planning board, because unless we want to have another meeting like this where someone wants to do a light industrial use, I have to come back to the planning board. I don't think you guys want to keep doing this type.
Well,
of
the
things.
thing is, our planning, our stuff in here, our book
Ordinance, yeah.
says that one of our goals in commercial areas is to encourage succinct use of sites, possibly businesses sharing the same entrance and exits and those kinds of things. If a business is just going to Mark and, he's looking at one project rather than looking generally at an area, I'm not sure those conversations are going to come up. Whereas if it's comes from the planning board, it's just more eyeballs looking at a project. And even though it is industrial and it is Route 1, we still we can encourage the simplest little things to make it end up looking better than it might have otherwise.
Well,
Um,
that's just an example. Another example would be looking at the buffer areas where it's saying the planning board has to determine certain things happen. Bless you. Where the planning board has to, like, what Brendan brought up at the last meeting about, I think,
the 25 feet.
the 25
Yeah.
feet or having the fence and everything.
Mhm.
Does that have to say planning board specifically, or could it just say the person doing the review authority? Because does that mean Mark doesn't have the power to put in these fence and buffer area items? Or does it mean he has to send it to the planning board? That's the type of things I want to avoid, that type of confusion. But that's just an example.
Mhm.
It's gonna hit the winter. Usually this is a slow period for me. I can work on some ordinance revisions. So I
Yeah,
was
and
just,
in my mind, what's the triggers? How much traffic, how much, public's coming in and out? Are there some interesting ways we could look at how, we minimize all the cuts in and out of Route 1, like the problem of crossing Depot Street, and having that be accelerated. So I don't know, how you phrase that,
I
how you
can
put that in a
just,
graph, the matrix, I mean.
I can just try and find some alternatives and some compromise, but I'm not making any changes. I'm just saying this is.
I
something
know
I'd
that
like
the
to-
planning board doesn't really do any planning, but this is. It'd be
Right.
kind of nice if we helped
I
out
mean,
a little bit with that.
Just, is George Seavers industrial park, is that filled up now? Is that has no more room in it?
No, there's still some spacing though.
I mean, I don't, I mean, they're doing what they're doing and they're allowed to do that and it's that area designed for
Industrial.
light industrial. So, but I mean, it does behoove us, I mean, as you were pointing out, to sort of try to bring all of these businesses like that together in a single place where there's less, there's less of a problem of they're having, problems with sound or with fumes or whatever. It's all consolidated. I mean, there's a lot to be said for that, but I don't, clearly they made the decision to go there as opposed to George Seavers. I mean, they're building a new building. They could have built it in George Seavers' place, right? If there's still space there, but that's not really
Right.
ours to ask that. I mean, they can build wherever they want to build it, but it would be nice if we had more,
I'll just say with the applicant, I have tried working with him on maybe half a dozen different places and George Seavers' place didn't come up.
mm,
This was just the one that seemed to fit with their timeline and everything else.
mm, mm.
It even seems like, I heard that, the Chevrolet people Tucker is moving, and then with the changes at Dunkin' Donuts, that whole block. That's
Oh,
a huge opportunity.
I'm keeping my eye on, I've got my notes for when those are changing use, so don't worry about that.
Okay,
I got those marked.
But what's changing use?
It's like the Tucker Chevrolet and where the gas station or the Dunkin' Donuts currently is. Once
Yeah.
those are changing use, that's when I can start enforcing some of the new standards now on them. But that's the future. That's beyond this.
yeah, and it's all speculation at this point, and we all want to go home.
The only other item I have is planning board applicants and as in someone to be on the board.
Oh.
That's it. So hopefully there'll be someone else new for the next meeting.
Cool.
Well, who's leaving the board?
This is someone who just want to be
Oh,
alternate
good.
voting member. He'd be an alternate voting member.
Great.
All right.
Always useful.
So I have nothing else if you want to.
Yeah. Let's adjourn.